4 days of defiance. Thai pro-democracy protesters have been maintaining the momentum, despite a ban on gatherings of over 4 people.
We are here to just take a stand for what we believe in, about the constitution, about the royal list, and also about the government of Thailand. And I think this one is going to be continue for a while.
The mostly student-powered movement has been leading unrest in Thailand since July, but the last 4 days have seen an escalation. On Friday, police used water cannons, unsuccessfully dispersing the demonstrators. Many protesters were also arrested. They think that by arresting the protest leaders, we'd be deterred somehow. But instead, we felt even more desperate, wondering how dare they treat us like this. There should be a negotiation with us or other peaceful means. Because we have different views, they now seek to annihilate us. The movement is demanding democratic reform of Thai society, where the government and monarchy have dominant powers. They've been calling for the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. He took power in a 2014 military coup and went on to tighten his grip on power in elections last year. You can see that the government is trying its best to compromise. We're asking for a few things. Don't do anything wrong, don't damage government or people's property, and the most important thing is to avoid conflict within the protesters. Chan-o-cha added that his government must protect the monarchy, referencing the pro-democracy movement's demands of change when it comes to how the royal family operates. That's challenging a taboo in Thai society, where criticising the royal family can lead to hefty penalties. Thai King Maha Vajiralongkorn is being criticised for his excessive lifestyle and for spending a lot of his time at a luxury resort in southern Germany. He's recently returned to Thailand, but has yet to comment on the protests. The protesters have vowed to continue their defiance, with gatherings planned all over the country.
Well, for more on the latest protests, I'm joined now by Philip Sherwell, a journalist for the Sunday Times in Bangkok. Thanks for being with us, Philip. A number of protest leaders have been arrested, but that doesn't seem to have had much of an effect on the demonstrations, has it?
Nothing so far has had much of an effect, except to galvanise protesters and increase the numbers. The government last week introduced a state of emergency, that was supposed to ban all gatherings of 5 people or more. They went in heavily on Friday night with water cannons and riot police. They've arrested leaders, and the protests have just been growing. One of the things the protesters are learning is the sort of Hong Kong tactics of a leaderless approach. They're conducting a lot of their organisation online. Today, they're actually having a vote online as to whether to hold protests or whether to take a day off. And all this is part of keeping the police on edge and really not giving them any heads up as to what their plans are until just shortly before people actually converge.
How worried, Philip, are authorities about this situation?
They are very worried, and they're very surprised that the measures they've taken so far have not had any effect apart from, as I mentioned, apparently to increase support for the protesters. The government is led by former generals who staged a coup in 2014, although they are now in government under a sort of elected system, and they are used to people following their orders. What they're doing now is switching the battle for them. They're trying to go online. They are saying that media companies that publish material that is deemed to threaten national security or instill chaos, they will have they could have their operations closed down. They're also saying they're looking at social media communications of many protesters, thousands, tens of thousands of protesters, and they will use that as the basis for prosecutions to show that people have been turning up at protests. And indeed, under this state of emergency, any communication, any news report that is deemed to threaten the stability of the country could leave people subject to prosecution. So it's a very febrile time, it's a very tense time, and there is no sign that any of these measures so far are decreasing the intensity of the protests.
Philip, thank you very much. That was journalist Philip Sherwell of the Sunday Times in Bangkok.